Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Tuesday. Good afternoon, one and all. It's going up for the next 2.5 hours here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. However, wherever, whenever you're tuned into the program today, thanks so much for being a part of 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuy will be along in a bit. Brendan Rosinski is off today. We are with you until 5:30 this evening, at which point we will get out of the way so the madness can begin. The first four of the NCAA Tournament starts tonight. A 5:40 tip-off between the Golden Retrievers. I don't think they're actually the Golden Retrievers. I think they're just the Retrievers. That's a fumble by me. That's a bad job. We're not even a minute and a half into the show, and I've already screwed something up. The UMBC Retrievers taking on the Howard Bison in the 16 versus 16 game, and then the 11 versus 11 game tonight. From Dayton is Texas and North Carolina State. And we have coverage from Westwood One of the NCAA Men's Basketball Tournament starting at 5:30 tonight. So that's when we will make way for that coverage. 5:30 we'll be off the air. So we've got 3 hours worth of show and only 2.5 hours in which to cram it all in. So we better make the most of it, shall we? On today's show, no team is having a better World Baseball Classic than the Kansas City Royals. How do you make that mean something from March 27th on through the rest of the season? I think there's a case to be made that what we're seeing from not just members of the Royals, marquee members of the Kansas City Royals can be a jumping off point for a successful 2026 Major League Baseball season. And I want to get into that a little bit. Of course, the championship game of the World Baseball Classic is tonight, so big sports TV night. You've got Team USA, you've got Team Venezuela, you've got Bobby Witt Jr. on one side, you've got Salvador Perez and Michael Garcia on the other, and Luinder Avila, who pitched, I think, 2 1/3 scoreless last night, did a nice job out of the Venezuela pen. So, going to be a fascinating game, but the big takeaway, one of the big takeaways from this World Baseball Classic is going to be the performance of the Kansas City Royals in the tournament. And how can the Royals turn that into something that means something for 2026? Also, we wanted to get to this today, but we never really got around to it because the Chiefs sort of threw a monkey wrench into the planning of our Monday show by going and trading for Justin Fields. And so we had to talk about them trading for Justin Fields. To reiterate from yesterday, I think Justin Fields stinks. And I think the Chiefs had better be hoping that he doesn't have to start a game. But let's be honest, whoever they got to be the stand-in this offseason and the potential understudy who might have to start a game or two or three as Patrick Mahomes works his way back from his knee injury, there wasn't anybody they were going to find where you felt like, yeah, Chiefs will be A-okay with him. There just isn't that backup quarterback out there. So if you're screwed no matter what, may as well go get a cheap guy. And that's what the Chiefs did with acquiring Justin Fields. Anyhow, what I wanted to get to yesterday, taking stock of what the Chiefs have done, the league year is now about a week old. It'll be a week old tomorrow. And the Chiefs have had some additions. Obviously, the Kenneth Walker move is the biggest deal of all of those. But what's the most important signing the Chiefs have made outside of Kenneth Walker? Going to want your input on that as we go along here in this opening hour. Aside from Kenneth Walker, who obviously is the biggest impact signing of the Chiefs free agent class, who's the player you believe makes the biggest difference for the Chiefs in 2016? We'll get into that. Also going to talk some Jayhawks today on the program because it is a Tuesday, and on Tuesday, Michael Swain of Fog.net joins us for Jayhawk Weekly. We'll get Michael's perspective on all things KU as they head into the NCAA tournament. They play Friday night in San Diego against the Lancers of Cal Baptist. If they win that game, they would play Sunday against either the number 5 seed St. John's or the number 12 seed Northern Iowa. We will get Michael's thoughts on how KU performed at the Big 12 tournament and what, if any, from that Big 12 tournament crash out in the semifinals, what impact that will have, if any, on how Kansas performs in the NCAA tournament and what kind of matchup Cal Baptist is for them in round 1 on Friday. Michael Swain will join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. And I said on yesterday's show, we got into the bracket just a little bit towards the end. There was so much other stuff that we had to catch up on that we only got to kind of brush up against the bracket a little bit. And I said I really feel like KU's ceiling in this tournament, based on their draw, is probably a Sweet 16. Because I don't expect them to beat Duke. Even a banged-up Duke, I would not expect them to beat. But that's why they play the games, right? So what would a Final Four run for Kansas look like? I think there's one game in particular from the regular season that is the blueprint for what it has to look like if Kansas is going to pull some upsets on their way to a return to the Final Four. Can never rule it out. You got a player as good as Darren Peterson. You got a coach as good as Bill Self. You can't rule it out. I don't think it's likely, but it can't be ruled out. So we'll talk about what that would look like a little bit. What it would look like for Kansas to reach the Final Four. Also on the show today, we've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We're going to the round of What Is Wrong With You. We'll do a little random question Tuesday as well. And we want to hear from you as the show goes on today. 785-272-9429 is the number. That's 785-272-9429. You can text the program. You can also hop in on the live chat on our YouTube channel, where I better not hear anything from you St. Patrick's Day hardliners who get real serious about the whole "I'm going to pinch you if you're not wearing green" thing. Because I wore green today. I went way into the closet to dig out my old Barry Zito Oakland A's jersey. So I wore green today. I did that on purpose. Part of it is, I've got a young son. He's not quite 2, but we put him in green today. St. Patrick's Day at his daycare, and everybody's going to be in green. And, mom and dad wanted to participate, so he understands. And he's obviously, but so much of he's going to understand because he's not yet 2 years old. But, you play along. You play along with the kids, right? So typically wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world to me whether or not anybody was wearing green on St. Patrick's Day. But I'm a dad now. My perspective is different. So I wore green today. So better not hear any grief from any of you. But anyway, if you're in on the YouTube chat today, would love to hear from you. We are live on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. Go slam that subscribe button. Now is a great time to do it. We're giving you a lot more content on a regular basis on the YouTube channel. We're starting to give you a lot more YouTube shorts, immediate reaction to breaking news, some of our best of from previous shows, little short clips of the show, and we're going to grow our content offerings over there. So go subscribe, go check it out. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. And if you're watching the show live, hop in the live chat and say hello. Interact with the program today. We've got 4B in the chat today. Good to see you. Mark and Paul and Andrew and Tyler also checking in. Great to have you guys along. Hope to hear from more of you as we go along throughout the show today on our YouTube chat. Again, the name 580 Sports Talk. But we're going to begin with some baseball today. And I'll give Andrew the first word even from the YouTube chat today. It's not even the World Baseball Classic anymore. It's the Royals Baseball Classic. So I went out to get some wings last night. Went out with my wife and my in-laws and obviously my son, and we went to get some wings. I'd been craving some wings, so we went and got some wings. And one of the TVs of the wing joint, no free advertising. I want these people to pay for a mention. Anyhow, one of the TVs of the wing joint had MLB Network on. And so they were running pregame stuff for last night's World Baseball Classic semifinal between Venezuela and Italy. And they were ranking the MLB teams, Major League Baseball teams, who've had the best World Baseball Classics. And that's a really odd conceit for a segment when you say it out loud, but like, you understand like what they're trying to do. Like, which team has had their players have the best performances in the World Baseball Classic? And number one on MLB Network's list was the Kansas City Royals. No team has had their guys be more impressive and more influential in the playing of this tournament than the Royals. And it's not just like prospects, or it's not just the old war horses, guys like Salvador Perez who've been around forever. It's the young core. It's the most important guys in the locker room for these Kansas City Royals who've had terrific World Baseball Classics. Last night, it was Michael Garcia. And by the way, saw this clip floating around social media elsewhere. It is not pronounced Michael Garcia. It is Michael Garcia. It is Michael Garcia. Let's get used to that. I had been getting it wrong for the longest. But Michael Garcia corrected the record himself. So we're gonna pronounce the name much like Travis. Is it Travis Achan now of the New Orleans Saints? Travis Achan is how he wants his name pronounced. We should give people the honor and the decency of pronouncing the name the way that they say that their name ought to be pronounced. So Michael Garcia, he had to go ahead hit last night for Venezuela in their win, their come-from-behind win over Italy. Of course, Italy's team leader has been Vinny Pasquantino, had a terrific World Baseball Classic, including the first 3 home run game in Classic history. And then, of course, for Team USA, all Bobby Witt Jr.'s got and done is earned himself a new nickname. He's America's shortstop. How cool is that? I think that's got a chance to stick, by the way. I think if the folks at Homage, however you pronounce that t-shirt brand, if the folks at Charlie Hustle aren't quickly going to work on some America's shortstop designs, they're fumbling the bag. That I think has a chance to be a nickname that's got some staying power. And whoever wins tonight between USA and Venezuela, a Royal is going to be, at least one is going to be a World Baseball Classic. At least 2. God, I keep forgetting Michael Walker's on Team USA. At least 2 Royals are going to be World Baseball Classic champions. And that's great for the perception, I think, nationwide and probably internationally too, for the Royals, who play in the middle of the country, don't get on national TV a whole lot, didn't make the playoffs last year, aren't a perennial playoff team, play in a division that's largely ignored. This is a team that operates primarily incognito, in the shadows. That the larger conversation about baseball in the United States during the Major League Baseball season does not often involve the Kansas City Royals. But how many kids watching this thing the last couple of weeks have decided that Bobby Witt Jr. is their new favorite player? Or how much has the status of Michael Garcia grown in his native country with his heroics? He's having a terrific World Baseball Classic. In fact, I'd wager to guess, I don't know if they award a tournament MVP. Feels like they do. Feels like they should. They only do it every 3 years, so sometimes I forget how they do things. But if Venezuela wins tonight, and they've got a puncher's chance, more than that, really. It's baseball. It's 1 game, 9 innings. Anything can happen. Excuse me. It's going to take some getting used to, but I'm going to get it right. Michael Garcia could be the tournament MVP. That's how good he's been for Venezuela. And then I don't necessarily know how much the nation of Italy has been dialed in on this World Baseball Classic. Not a lot of native Italians playing for Italy. Just a bunch of guys with Italian last names. Probably guys whose grandmothers had awesome, like, spaghetti sauce recipes growing up. You know, paisans, but not like native Italians. So I don't know how much baseball they're watching over in Italy. I don't know that we're going to have 25 years from now some golden generation of Italian-born Major League Baseball players. Though that would be really cool if it did happen. But Vinny Pasquantino, as the leader of that team, the vocal leader, the de facto captain, the originator of the dugout espresso machine, has raised his profile as well. And deservedly so. Who doesn't love Vinny Pasquantino? Like, if you're a Royals fan, you already knew this about these guys, right? You knew how good Bobby Witt Jr. was. You knew that Michael Garcia broke out last year. You knew Vinny Pasquantino was the kind of personality that can bring a clubhouse, bring a team together. But now everybody knows it. And I think that's pretty cool. And I think that raises, obviously, the perception, and it raises the visibility of the Kansas City Royals entering 2026. And that's well and good. But how do you make it count? How do you make it count? How do you make it mean something over the course of 162? It's been a great 2 weeks for the Royals. How do you make it mean something for 6 months? How do you use this as a jump-off point for this season? The American League Central is very much there for the taking. I like Detroit's pitching rotation. Obviously, they should have won the division last year. They totally melted down. I understand the argument that maybe if you're going to argue that Detroit should be the favorite, I will listen to that argument. I understand. Skubal and Framber at the top of that rotation, holy moly. It's really good. Cleveland has taken a step back. Minnesota's got a bunch of young guys. There's some variance there, but not much supplementing those young guys. If they don't all perform to the best of their ability, I don't think that Minnesota team seriously contends. And I still think the White Sox are at best a year away. I saw their starting pitching rotation projected, how it's going to lay out to start the regular season. I don't know them dudes. It's a bunch of guys. Like, I followed the American League Central last year. I vaguely remember the names. I couldn't tell you anything about these guys. They're not good. They're just there. They're filler. So it's there for the taking, the American League Central. How the Royals go get it, I think we're seeing the formula for it at the World Baseball Classic. It's Bobby Witt Jr. playing like the best player on the field every game. It's Vinny Pasquantino elevating his own game, being able to lead and maybe, just maybe, assume some of that leadership. And I think this has probably already started. Assume some of that leadership mantle that Salvador Perez has carried for so many years. I'm not saying we need co-captains in that Royals clubhouse by any means, but some of that day-to-day leadership doesn't have to just be one guy's domain anymore. Vinny Pasquantino can take a piece of that. And I think that's already started. Michael Garcia might be on the cusp of bona fide superstardom. I don't think that's an exaggeration. Somebody who runs like he does and hits for contact like he does and has the doubles and maybe even home run potential in the new K that he does, and who plays with the verve that he does and always seems to be in the middle of something good like he has been for Venezuela throughout this tournament. If he can do that for 162, he's a household name by September. The formula's there. This young core of Royals, and I get that, like, they're not 21, 22. They're not crazy young. This isn't like when, like, Beltran and Damon and Dye all came up and they were all in their real early 20s. But these are fairly young guys still. These are guys, Bobby Witt Jr., I don't think has reached his prime. Michael Garcia did it again, another quarter for the jar. Michael Garcia is not close to his prime yet. But this young core of Royals, it feels like, can take some of this energy and take some of this confidence and go into this season knowing on the biggest stage, we're some of the best players in the world. And that kind of attitude, that kind of confidence, that can only lead to winning. That can only lead to good things. In a division that is very much up for grabs, a division where really only one other team seems to even want to win it, that isn't the Royals. Why can't what we've seen the last 2 weeks be a stepping stone for Witt and Garcia and Pasquantino and Jack Caglione, who had a home run in the tournament for Team Italy? Why can't it be a stepping stone for these guys to have that hunger to play meaningful baseball, to get the K rocking like Lone Depot Park in Miami was rocking last night, and the confidence to know that when the stakes are high, because stakes are pretty high in this World Baseball Classic. There's a bunch of dudes that care a lot about the outcome of those games. When the stakes are high, some of the best players in the world are wearing royal blue. That's got to put some pep in your step if you're walking through that Royals clubhouse as soon as the season gets underway. We'll take a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. They got some Chiefs to get to. I want to know from you, outside of Kenneth Walker, because he's the obvious answer, which Chiefs signing are you the biggest fan of? Which Chiefs signing so far do you think has been the best one? We'll talk about that. We'll get into some Jayhawks, talking NCAA Tournament. Michael Swain's going to join us bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We're off at 5:30 today, so it's a truncated show. We got a lot to get to in a little bit less time, but we appreciate you being along with us. This is 580 Sports Talk. 3:32. We're just getting started on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero with you. Hope you're enjoying your Tuesday, your St. Patrick's Day. Royals have had a terrific World Baseball Classic. Bobby Witt Jr. and Michael Garcia, two players in particular that have had such a good World Baseball Classic that I think people are baseball-wide are going to start to ask, wait a minute, the Royals are the best left side of the infield in all of baseball? I mean, they might. Not many off the top of my head I'm taking before I take theirs. I'll tell you that right now. There's some good ones. But Witt has played at an MVP level the last 2 years. The only reason he hasn't won MVP is because Aaron Judge has been ridiculous. And Michael Garcia played at a very high level last year. If he can continue that level of play, yeah, I think they might have the best left side of the infield in baseball. Andrew in the live chat on YouTube says, I've seen this floated out there. Bobby Witt Jr. hitting leadoff and Michael Garcia hitting second for their respective clubs. The Royals should keep that idea. So the reason I'm more in favor of Garcia leading off and Witt hitting second is because I think Garcia is more apt to get on base. I think he's got a little better batting eye. He chases a little less. And then Witt's got more power. So how are you more likely to generate a run or multiple runs? Say Bobby Witt Jr. gets on base. Is Garcia going to drive him in with a double? Yeah, he can. But Witt's got more power, more likely to get an extra base hit if Garcia walks or singles or doubles himself. I think that second is a good balance for Witt. He doesn't have to try and be I've got to get on base for everybody else. I think that's more Garcia's role to be, I'm going to be the guy who gets on base. Everybody else can worry about being the power and knocking me in. And we saw what happened 2 years ago when Garcia decided he needed to be a power hitter. He's one of the worst everyday hitters in baseball. When he made the simple calculation, I hit the ball really hard. I have a good eye, and I swing at good pitches, and I hit the ball really hard. I'm just going to hit it hard. I'll worry about whether it goes over the fence or not. I'm just going to worry about hitting the ball hard. And Michael Garcia hitting the ball hard all over the field is a much better offensive player than Garcia thinking he needs to be an RBI man. So I think that works for their respective lineups, but at the same time, Venezuela's got Luis Arraez hitting third, and he's not going to hit third in a serious Major League Baseball lineup. That's not really his role. No power with Arraez, right? That's not a three-hole hitter, but that's how Venezuela arranges their lineup. So I think it ought to be Garcia 1, Bobby Witt Jr. 2nd, but really, you're getting those two guys, you're getting those two hitters to bat the most often of anybody else in your lineup, then it's hard to get it really wrong, I would say. I have seen this, got a text about it, got a comment in the live chat about it too. From the 785, I hated Derek Jeter's question to Garcia last night, pointing to the stadium and asking, does this feel like Kansas City? And that felt like a slam towards Kansas City. I understand why it felt that way. Like if you were a Royals fan, if you're a Kansas Cityan, I think that Derek Jeter probably mishandled the asking of that question because I think what he was meaning to imply was not that, Kansas City's a crappy baseball town or Kansas City draws crappy crowds or nobody goes to Royals games. Royals fans don't care. I don't think that was the implication there. I think the implication was that he was trying to make was simply, this is a different animal than your regular season games. This is a different kind of crowd than what you experience night in and night out. And I think anybody would agree with that particular assessment. I think it was asked a little bit insensitively, but Derek Jeter ain't Walter Cronkite. So I'll give him a pass. Venezuela, Team USA tonight, World Baseball Classic Championship game. I was actually thinking about this. I love that Venezuela team. I love watching those guys play. And they've got a lot of guys on that team who I would rate among my very favorite players in Major League Baseball. Salvador Perez. Ronald Acuna Jr., I think, is the coolest baseball player alive right now. Michael Garcia is a joy to watch. There's a lot of guys on that Venezuela team. And then I got to thinking about just my life as a baseball fan. Like in this century, just the 2000s. I have been a fan of an inordinate number, probably more guys per capita from Venezuela than any other baseball playing nation. Some of my favorite players of all time. Carlos Gonzalez, who was the coolest baseball player alive when he was going for the Rockies in the 2010s. There was nobody cooler than Cargo. Venezuelan. Miguel Cabrera, Venezuelan. Johan Santana, one of my favorite left-handed pitchers growing up, Venezuelan. German Marquez, maybe the best Rocky strikeout pitcher of all time, one of my favorites, Venezuelan. Obviously, the guys they have now, Salvi, Acuna is one of my absolute favorites ever. Hell, their first base coach is Gerardo Parra, and he's not like that kind of player, but who doesn't love Gerardo Parra? If you rooted for a team with him on it, you loved him. He was a great personality guy, great clubhouse guy. Those guys just have all the fun, man. I love watching them play. I will be over the moon for those guys if they win. I really will. I'll be super happy for them. Team USA wins? Hell yeah, brother. Fly that flag, baby. It's our game. So really, I kind of feel like I can't lose tonight. I'm going to enjoy the game. I'll be happy for whoever wins. I might wear, this is not a joke, by the way. So for the first World Baseball Classic, 2006, I remember going to a Marshall's. And if you've ever been to a Marshall's, it's a Ross, basically, or a TJ Maxx. And they had a bunch of stuff on the rack. And they had World Baseball Classic jerseys on the rack like a year after the playing of the first World Baseball Classic. I copped the Team Venezuela jersey. It's red. They used to wear the vino. They used to wear the red. Now they wear blue. Would y'all be mad if I wore that tomorrow if Venezuela won? I think that might rub some people the wrong way. I might not chance it, but like if I have a favorite baseball playing nation that is not the United States, it is Venezuela. Just so many of their players have brought me the greatest joy as a fan of baseball over the years, and still do. And so, yeah, man, I'm gonna be happy for whoever wins tonight. Should be a fun game. Should be an incredible atmosphere in Miami. And I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you guys get to catch some of it, too. I'm really looking forward to it tonight. We're going to take a time out here at 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we're going to pivot to some football. The Chiefs, 1 week into free agency. What's the best signing they made other than Kenneth Walker? We'll discuss next on the program. 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday. Reminder, we're off at 5:30 today so we can make way for the madness. The first four starts tonight, 5:40 tip-off. This is your reminder to find True TV in your channel guide. For those of you who do streaming, I guess it's all alphabetical, right? You just go down to the T's. But if you got cable like me, I got to go remember what channel. I think it's 51 on Cox, if I remember right. So maybe I've already done the homework. But this is your reminder. True TV tonight for the basketball. UMBC and Howard, then Texas and North Carolina State. I think the winner of that one, by the way, going to have a chance to knock off BYU in round one. I know DeBonce has been playing out of his mind, had that huge game against K-State, but he's really all they got right now. And maybe he can carry him. I wouldn't put it past him at all, but that BYU team pretty underwhelming without Richie Saunders for me. If you're looking for an upset, that might be one to keep an eye on. We're a week in almost to the new league year. Lots still happening in free agency and on the trade market in the NFL. A couple of noteworthy moves that we'll get to more in headlines today, but the Broncos made a move to acquire wide receiver Jalen Waddle from the Dolphins today, while former Chief Hollywood Brown has found a new home with the Eagles. But I wanted to know what you thought of this question, other than Kenneth Walker, who is obviously the best Chiefs move of this offseason so far. They have sorely missed the dimension of having a bona fide number one running back. His threat, his big playability, his speed unlocks so much for the Chiefs on offense. But other than that obvious correct answer, what is your favorite move the Chiefs have made so far this offseason? You can text the show, 785-272-9429, 785-272-9429, or you can leave your answer in the live chat on YouTube. For me, it's probably not like a sexy answer to the question, but I think the Khyiris Tonga addition is a big deal for the Chiefs because of what the investment in his role signifies for the Chiefs. If you've got a space-eating defensive tackle, if you've got a guy capable of occupying two blockers on a given play, somebody who can hold up his own at the point of attack and get a little push in that nose tackle, one tech, whatever you want to call it, in that role, makes life easier for a lot of other places and a lot of other players on your defense. A player like Tonga can keep blockers off of linebackers. Makes Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquil's job a lot easier. Tranquil, by the way, in case you missed this over the weekend, and I confess I had too, so I'm making sure you guys didn't miss this. Chiefs restructured his contract. So they spaced out his cap hit. It's not a $6 million cap hit this year, but any notion that the Chiefs were going to cut Drew Tranquil, that's gone. It's going to be him, and it's going to be Nick Bolton at linebacker this year. But Tonga can keep blockers off of those guys. So they can get downhill. They can stay out of the trash, so to speak, the mass of bodies in the middle of the field. They got one less to worry about. Then go get downhill and make a tackle. A player like Tonga can grant one-on-ones to the end and the tackle who bracket him. We'll see who the end ends up being, but you know who that other tackle is. And if Tonga plays well, he can allow the Chiefs to ask less of the secondary in run support. The Chiefs were still good against the run last year. In fact, they were really good against the run last year, but a lot of that had to do with playing their safeties closer to the line of scrimmage and not so much the performance of the defensive line, particularly at defensive tackle, where the Chiefs got sub-mediocre play from Mike Pennell and Derek Nottie and Jerry Tillery. Nottie is past his best. Pennell's like a time zone past his best. And Jerry Tillery never had a best to begin with. Those guys weren't any good. And that was what was lining up last year next to Chris Jones, trying to hold up against the run, trying to free up Chris Jones to get some one-on-ones, trying to free up George Karlaftis or whoever at defensive end from getting one-on-ones. Those guys couldn't do it. Those guys were not up to the task. Khyiris Tonga is going to be. And him elevating the talent level at that spot to a level where Chris Jones doesn't have to do it all by himself and carry the entire load of the interior defensive line, I think that's a big deal. I think the Tonga signing has a chance to unlock better, more productive football from Chris Jones, better, more productive football from the defensive end rotation, better, more productive football from the linebackers, and possibly even from the safety group as well. And that's why you pay $7 million a year for that player, where the Chiefs had kind of gone bargain shopping at that position for the last few years. And look, bargain shopping worked out fine. They never really paid Derek Nottie a whole lot of money, and he was solid when he was solid. That just isn't the player he is anymore. Same with Mike Pennell. Mike Pennell, they were paying like $15 an hour plus tips, and he was playing 6 games a year in the playoffs, and it worked out fine. When they needed more from him last year after they got him back off of waivers, he wasn't capable. And Jerry Tillery was never good for a single second of his NFL career. I don't know why the Chiefs thought that was going to work. It had no chance. But if you think that a player like Tonga is going to make other guys around him better, that $7 million a year is nothing. And so that's why the Chiefs chose to invest in his role. And I think that's really telling about what they think he can do for the rest of that defense. So that, to me, is the best investment, the best move other than Kenneth Walker the Chiefs have made this offseason. Beyond him, I really like the Alohi Gilman addition because the Chiefs have always benefited from a veteran voice in the secondary, a veteran leader in the secondary. If they thought Brian Cook was that kind of guy, they would have paid him market value. They're not shy about paying market value for a safety. If they thought Brian Cook was that guy, they'd have paid him market value. They didn't. And this is not a disrespect to Cook, who I think is and will continue to be a fine player. But when you think about the kind of leadership that the Chiefs have had at safety on the championship teams from Tyrann Mathieu and Justin Reed, Alohi Gilman's a lot closer to being that kind of presence than Brian Cook is. So that's why I think that he is a really quality addition as well. We did get some other answers from the live chat on YouTube. Paul says Tyquan Thornton is his favorite addition. Probably the only wide receiver who had an ounce of chemistry with Mahomes last year. Maybe more of a one-trick pony, but the wide receiver room is still a big old question mark. So why not bring him back and give him a fair, expanded look? Yeah, I thought that made all the sense in the world to reunite with him if the price was right, and it certainly was. So that gives you some security, and not to be overlooked, the thought of not having Mahomes around much in the offseason means it should be beneficial to have receivers that know Mahomes so that when he is ready to start practicing and playing, because, even in a best case scenario, it's probably like training camp game. You're not going to play any preseason. Training camp, game 1, week 1, ready to roll. It will be good to have as many receivers as possible who have a pre-existing rapport with Mahomes. Andrew in the YouTube chat says, I think the Tonga and Gilman signings were the 2 best signings for free agency. I really like Tonga because of the energy he's going to bring to the defensive line. Good shout there. Mark H. also thinks Thornton is his favorite signing of the offseason to date. Here's one from the 785. I like the Justin Fields pickup. Not the best thrower. He's a heck of an athlete, young, fast, with experience. I think he'll be a good backup quarterback under Reed's guidance and Mahomes' mentorship. That is certainly the bet that the Chiefs are making. I just don't think he's really ever going to be a good passer. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Do I think maybe the Chiefs use Fields maybe a little bit gadgety if he never starts a game for them? Which, again, that's the hope, right? Do I think there could be a Justin Fields package that Andy Reid might like to tinker with and get the most out of his legs? I could see that. But it is interesting because it is a mold breaker for the Chiefs at backup quarterback, from veteran, guy who started a bunch of games, older than Mahomes. I think now Minshew and him might be around the same age. Maybe he's younger. But, of similar to more experience than Mahomes. Similar, like drop back passers, those kinds of players, to go get a younger guy who hasn't played as much as Mahomes has, who is a different kind of player than Mahomes is, it is a tendency breaker. And maybe there's something to that idea that the Chiefs like that idea. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up this hour of 580 Sports Talk with our continuing countdown to Royals opening day. We're 10 days away. 10 days from Royals opening day. The Bard is so excited that the Bard has weighed in. We got 10-day to opening day poem. 10 more sleeps till opening night. The boys will give Chris Sale a fright. The bases, they'll be dashing. The leather, they'll be flashing. Bobby and Vinny hitting the ball out of sight. Love it. Love it. 10 more days. Of course, the number 10 is retired by the Kansas City Royals in honor of the late Dick Hauser, who managed 1985 world champions and succumbed to a brain tumor not long after. So nobody has worn it since, and nobody ever will again. But the first Royal to wear it was the Royals' first everyday third baseman, Paul Schaal, who eventually was usurped by George Brett, and the rest is history. And the last Royal to wear it, Clint Hurdle, 1978 cover boy of Sports Illustrated. Never quite delivered on that the next phenom promise, although injuries played a role. Because actually, you go back and you look at the numbers. If you weren't alive and all you know is, oh, yeah, Clint Hurdle, yeah, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, he busted. Clint Hurdle was pretty darn good in 1980. That was a pennant-winning team. He was pretty darn good for that team. The injuries happened, and he had problems with alcohol that he, has kicked in his life, which is good. Obviously, one of my favorite baseball people, managed the only pennant winner in Rockies history. Just another, there's so much overlap between the Royals and Rockies in their history that I find to be very amusing from my perspective. Coming on the 4 o'clock hour, Michael Swain will join us. And how does KU get to the Final Four? Plus, what is wrong with you on 580 Sports Talk? Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. So nice to be with you on this Tuesday. Dan Lucero and Spencer Dupuis with you until 5:30. At which point, we're going to hand things off to Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA Tournament. The first 4 tonight in Dayton. We've got UMBC and Howard. And then we've got Texas and North Carolina State. I think that's the game that Barkley and Vitale are doing.
Yes, they are doing that game. The Texas NC State.
Why are they keeping Dickie V up till midnight, man? That seems...
I don't know, but I think this is this the last little hoorah for him?
Given his health challenges, it would not be a surprise if it were.
A celebration of his life in college basketball. Give him a game.
Yeah, giving him an NCAA tournament game. He hasn't gotten to work one. He gets to work with Barkley, which I think both him and Barkley have always wanted to do. Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it is a little valedictory for him. I don't like to think about a college basketball world without Dick Vitale in it, to be honest with you. The Retrievers, the good boys, they are 1.5 point favorites over Howard per Prairie Bank Sportsbooks odds. North Carolina State is favored by 1.5 over Texas. That's probably my lean to North Carolina State because I think they got more dudes than Texas, and UMBC because I don't know nothing about those teams. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm picking the team with a better mascot. I'm picking the Retrievers. They made me really happy in the tournament one year. We were talking about this off the air, you and me. Brendan and I were telling you this. Both of the times that a 16 has beaten a 1, Brendan and I have been together watching it in a hotel room while covering the NCAA tournament. It's happened twice. It happened in 2018 when UMBC beat Virginia. We all know the games we're talking about here. But UMBC beat Virginia. Brendan and I were in Wichita. That was the year KU went to the Elite Eight. We were down in Wichita. They went to the Final Four. That's the banner that's not hanging for reasons. We were in a hotel in Wichita watching the end of that game. And I think that was the first night that Brendan had ever had Brahms. I think that was his introduction to Brahms. So big night. Big night for our guy.
Very much so.
So we watched that game together in a hotel room, just bouncing off the walls. It was awesome. And then when Fairleigh Dickinson beat Purdue, that was when him and I were in Des Moines. That was the year KU lost in the second round to Arkansas when Bill Self had his health issues and wasn't on the bench for that game. And Jalen Wilson couldn't get a touch for the final 15 minutes. And Arkansas won that game. Arkansas, really good. That was a really good 8 seed. A tough matchup for Kansas. But I kind of feel like Bill Self might have made a difference down the stretch. Might have been able to outcoach Eric Musselman where Norm Roberts was not able to do so. But anyway, we were in Des Moines. We were in a hotel room in Ankeny watching that game on TV. So, yeah, if Brendan and I are not covering the NCAA tournament, do not pick a 16 seed to beat a 1 seed. Don't do it anyway, but do not pick a 16 seed to beat a 1 seed if Brendan and I are not together to watch it. That's just some of the bracket advice that we will dispense on this program, but not too much of it because we want to beat your brains in this year's 580 Sports Talk Bracket Challenge. That's right. The 580 Sports Talk Bracket Challenge for 2026 is live. We are running it through ESPN. So you will need an ESPN handle, log in to access their tournament challenge. We're going to put, if you're watching on our YouTube channel right now, 580 Sports Talk, or on Facebook, WIBW News, we're going to put the information on a scroll right there at the bottom of the screen. Look at how cool that is. We can just do that. And what we're going to do, we're going to give prizes to the winner this year. A prize. And it'll be a prize of your choice. 4 tickets to see the Royals or 4 tickets to a K-State home football game in 2026. A Royals home game in 2026 or a K-State home game in 2026. Your choice. You get to pick the game.
Shout out to the 21 people, well, 19, because Brendan's not in there yet, but you and I are in there. The 19 other people that are in this group.
Yeah, and all we've done is promote it on our socials so far. We haven't even told you all about it on the air. So if this is the first you're hearing of it, go get yourself registered. Go to the ESPN.com Tournament Challenge and search for the group 580 Sports Talk Ball Knowers, because we're all ball knowers here. You know ball because you listen to us. We know ball, and that's why you listen to us. 580 Sports Talk Ball Knowers is the name of the group. 1 entry per participant. We're not here for your 9 different brackets, all right? You get 1 crack at this. You don't get to enter all 13 of your brackets. Well, this is the one I did by color, and this is my upset bracket, and this is the one I did picking names out of a hat. This is the one I did while I flipped a coin.
This is my KU fan bracket.
And this is the one I woke up at 2 a.m. and did while I was punch drunk. No, 1 bracket. 1 entry per listener. 580 Sports Talk Ball Knowers is the name of the bracket challenge group on ESPN.com's Tournament Challenge. And if you win, you get 4 tickets to either a Royals home game in 2026 or a K-State football home game in 2026. I got to be really careful, because I don't want people to be looking for loopholes. I could just say, yeah, we'll give you tickets to a Royals game or a K-State game, and then be like, yeah, I want to go to the road game because well, I got those tickets, man. They're not coming out of my pocket, but we've got these tickets for you.
Also, please try to name your bracket your like first name or some identifier, like maybe your YouTube username that we call you or something. Just it's not ESPN 426878 because it's going to be hard to identify.
Yeah, it'd be really hard to identify you. But yeah, if you do win, just reach out to us and we'll verify your identity one way or another. But we look forward to having many of you participate in our 580 Sports Talk Bracket Challenge. Spencer, who you got winning it all? I'm curious. Who you got?
So I'm not there yet. I have not initially made an initial bracket.
So you have not read our guy CJ Moore's bracket manifesto.
No.
CJ will tell you, pick your winner first and go from there. CJ's a big believer. Pick your champ first and go from there. And CJ has picked the last 2 champions correctly and has predicted 7 of the last 8 Final Four teams correctly. So CJ really knows ball. You know that. You hear him on our show. You know how he knows ball. That was my philosophy this year. I decided to try that philosophy. I picked Arizona to win the whole thing, and I worked backwards from there.
I like his Final Four.
It is also my Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, I would be pretty close to that, quite honestly.
I have Duke, Arizona, Michigan, and Illinois in my Final Four. That is not because CJ picked them, although you could do worse than following CJ Moore's picks. But no, I have said it over and over. I've been saying this since about mid-January. Duke, Arizona, and Michigan are better than everybody else. And I think that even banged up, they're better than everybody else. And I do not think that I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think we're going to see a ton of upsets. I think we're going to see a lot of chalk. But I have Arizona winning the championship. So good luck to everybody who enters. 1 bracket per entry. Again, the name of the group, the ESPN.com Tournament Challenge, 580 Sports Talk Ball Knowers. If you join a different group, you're not in the contest. Okay?
Yeah, for some reason, our group from last year rolled over to this year, so do not join 580 Sports Talk and Friends. The correct one is 580 Sports Talk Ball Knowers.
580 Sports Talk Ball Knowers. We got the link on our X. If you follow us on X, 580 Sports Talk, you can follow the link. You
it's
follow
on Facebook as well.
You follow us on Facebook, WIBW News. You follow the link over there. You follow us on Blue Sky, 580 Sports Talk on Blue Sky. We got the link over there too. But join us. Get the bracket filled out before Thursday morning and join us in the contest. And again, if you win, you get 4 tickets to either a 2026 Royals home game of your choice or a 2026 K-State home football game of your choice. Got to realize not everybody likes baseball, and also not everybody likes K-State. So we want to give you options. We want to give you something that you're going to enjoy as your spoils. You can sit, well, maybe in the sun. I don't know. Maybe you'll pick a November home game for K-State, and you want to be out there and it's 20 degrees. But you'll sit out there and you'll enjoy it. And you'll think, yes, I earned this because I knew ball. I think there should also be a stipulation. I haven't run this by the committee, but there should be a stipulation that if one of us wins, then like if one of us comes out number 1, nobody gets anything. That's not how we're going to do it, though. If you're the best of the listener group, you will get the prize. So we can't win. We can win bragging rights. We can't win the tickets.
Yeah.
That's that's the fair way to do it. Enter today, 580 Sports Talk Bracket Challenge. The group, again, called 580 Sports Talk Ball Knowers. How far you got KU going?
We're in a dilemma. I've thought about them somehow coming together and beating St. John's, and I've thought about them losing to St. John's. I'm not there. That's why I said I'm not there yet.
So they are one of those teams. Kelvin Sampson was right a couple of weeks ago. They are one of those teams where you never know, where you just don't know what it's going to be. But if Kansas were to make the Final Four, what would that look like? What would have to happen for Kansas to make the kind of run that we expect a Kansas team to make?
Darren Peterson would have to look like AJ Dibanza. As in, like,
first of all, it's
Dibanza.
Second of all, I think that is certainly. I don't think he needs to score 40 a night.
No, but I think he needs to average in this tournament in the 30s in order for them. And
I don't even think he needs to get 30. I think it's more important that. So the game that is the blueprint, and I think it's especially the blueprint for Kansas's success in this tournament because of who they're going to match up against, is ironically their best win this year without Peterson playing, the Arizona game at home. That's going to be the blueprint for a KU run because Kansas is not going to be bigger than the teams that they play. They're not even going to be bigger than Cal Baptist. You know, Cal Baptist has a 7-footer and like 2 7-footers, and one of them doesn't play much. But they got 2 7-footers at Cal Baptist, and they got another kid who's 6'11". They got another kid who's 6'10". They're freaking huge. And of Kansas's 3 worst losses this season, just the worst teams that they've lost to, all those teams had a 7-footer on them. Every one of the teams that was not as good as KU, like definitionally not near as good as KU, but beat them anyway, did so because they had a 7-footer on the roster in large part. Like Arizona State's the most recent example. So size is going to be a deficit for Kansas. St. John's basically starts 3 bigs. Duke is huge. They're a little less huge if Patrick Gungba doesn't play, but they're huge. But so is Arizona, and Kansas beat them, and Kansas beat them without their best player. How did they beat Arizona without their best player and giving up all that size? You have to hold your own in the paint, scoring-wise. You have to get as much easy offense as they do. You cannot give up a 10 or 15-point points in the paint differential in a game. And you have to get to the free throw line and beat them there too. That's what Kansas did against Arizona to beat them. When they didn't do that, Arizona smacked them around pretty good at the McHale Center. But that's the blueprint. Kansas is going to have to find ways to get easy baskets because they're not a great three-point shooting team. They're going to have to find ways to get to the free throw line where they are quite good. Melvin Council's a very good free throw shooter. Trey White is a tremendous three-point shooter or free throw shooter. Darren Peterson is a very good free throw shooter. You have to find ways to be aggressive on offense, get downhill, but also you got to score or miss the trees, or at the very least, you got to earn your way to the free throw line. That's going to be how Kansas, because offense doesn't come easily for Kansas, particularly against bigger teams otherwise. They're going to have to make some tough shots. The good thing for Kansas is they have tough shot makers. Peterson, a healthy Peterson, is a tough shot maker. Melvin Council is a tough shot maker. Those guys are going to have to make those tough shots. And as for Peterson, I think, and we'll ask Michael Swain this. We didn't really preview the hour. I think he even said what radio station we're on or what radio program you're listening to at the top of the hour. I usually do that just to remind people. This is 580 Sports Talk. I'm Dan Heath Spencer. We're going to talk to Michael Swain of Fog.net, bottom of this hour. And I'm going to ask him if he feels like Darren Peterson, health-wise, is the best he's been since the start of the season. Because I suspect that he is. So I suspect that what we see from Peterson in this NCAA tournament is going to be the closest to the kind of player Kansas thought they were getting when he committed that we have seen yet this season. And as a texter from the 785 points out, that's what Kansas is going to need. They need, and it's not just the scoring, right? It's the creation. It's the defensive playmaking. It's the threat of him off the bounce and on the drive, opening space for guys like Trey White. They're going home in a hurry if Trey White doesn't make shots.
Yeah.
But it's everything that Peterson does. It's not just the scoring. If he does go for 30 a night, I'll tell you what, I will see you in Indianapolis. If he's going to go for 30 a night, I think that would be wonderful. But I think a more realistic version of Peterson that Kansas needs to make a run is they need him doing everything. They need him scoring, yes, but the playmaking on both ends. That's the stuff that makes him the potential number one pick. It's not just his ability to score. Got to see that, I think, in this run. And that's how Kansas goes to the Final Four. That's what it would look like, because they're going to have to overcome big teams. The good news for Kansas is, like, St. John's can't shoot either. Like, KU's not a great shooting team. St. John's really can't shoot. That's why they lost in the tournament last year. They can't shoot. They can't shoot from the outside. They can't really shoot from the inside. They're just big. They beat you up, and they score a lot of easy baskets because they're big. Well, rebounding is not all about being big. It's about effort. It's about positioning. It's about 1-2. Kansas has to show some of that toughness. And it's the damnedest thing, right? Like, for a team that when they lose, they get blown out every time they lose, and that's kind of been the case for Kansas this year, they don't have a lot of close losses. They got a lot of close wins, but usually when they lose, it's by double digits, right? Like Houston ripped off their own arms and beat them with them in the Big 12 semifinal. For a team that gets blown out a lot, Kansas is a mentally tough, and I think at times a physically tough team. When it doesn't show up, it really doesn't show up. But this is the NCAA tournament. These are different stakes. The best version of Kansas, and we saw it in that Arizona game. Obviously, you had the Fog Allen, the Allen Fieldhouse mystique. You had the crowd at the Fog lifting the Jayhawks that night. But that's the version of Kansas that makes a run, a version that holds its own and dominate the post, but holds its own on the interior, finds ways to get to the free throw line, finds ways for its defense to create offense. And then anything can happen.
Yeah.
Still have a hard time believing they're going to get past Duke if Duke is healthy. Really, really hard time seeing that happening. But
is Duke really that healthy, though?
That's the question. Caleb Foster's probably not going to play. Patrick Young was a question mark. Those are two important pieces. There's no doubt about that. And we haven't seen what it looks like for KU with Peterson against an elite team. We in a tournament setting. We don't know. We'll find out. They play Friday. Cal Baptist, the Lancers. By the way, they used to be Division III, I'm pretty sure.
That would make sense.
I think they're a fairly new Division I program. We'll take a break. We'll come back with some What Is Wrong With You. And then we got Michael Swain of Fog.net joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. It is What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. We got two new stories competing today. Our winner from yesterday, Thou Shalt Steal a Ton of Baseball Cards. The head priest of an Episcopal church in Pittsburgh stole $1,000 worth of baseball cards from Walmart in a span of 5 days. Just kept walking in, pocketing some cards, maybe in one of those big flowy robes. Probably not. They probably don't wear those like around. But you could. You could probably get a lot of baseball cards in one of those robes.
Yeah.
And 5 straight days walking out of Walmart with boxes of baseball cards. The value of the stolen baseball cards is close to $1,100. He had been on administrative leave from the church since late January. So obviously a lot going on for the very Reverend Aiden Smith. He's very something. We just don't know what it is. That he would go and steal all those baseball cards. Not what Jesus would do. Two new stories today. I'm going to go first. We are going to Georgia, Gwinnett County to be precise, where a man is facing charges after deputies say he pretended to be a police officer to take somebody's money. Garrett Thompson was arrested earlier this month. We don't know much about Garrett, but we know the scam he pulled. The sheriff's office said a victim reported being contacted by an Officer Shepard who said that there was an issue with his jury duty. The victim was told to either pay $1,350 or turn himself into the sheriff's office of Gwinnett County. The victim thought it was real and sent the money to the phone number provided by the caller. Because, yes, that's how the judicial system works, via Venmo or Zelle. Maybe it was Zelle. Investigators were able to trace the phone number to Thompson, who confirmed he received the money. Yeah, I got the money. What about it? Yeah, it's not legal. That's a crime. The Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office reminds citizens that law enforcement will never request payment over the phone to resolve jury duty matters or other legal issues. Residents who receive suspicious calls are encouraged to report them to their local law enforcement. So, yeah, I understand like being a little bit frazzled about the thought of, oh, you have a problem. We have a problem here, sir. And there's two ways to resolve this. Either you're going to turn yourself in at the Hooskow, or you can simply come off of $1,350 to this Venmo account. And that would be where my antenna would go up and be like, the cops are not going to ask me to Venmo them.
Yeah.
What kind of cop is going to ask me to Venmo them? Not doing it. No, something smells fishy here, Officer Shepard. What's your badge number, pal? You give me that over the phone? That's the only. That's the number I'm interested in. What's your badge number, Officer Shepard? All right, that is my story today. Spencer, what do you got?
Yes, appearing this week before a Florida judge, Aaron Jablonski, I believe.
Jablonski, yeah.
35, copped to an aggravated assault and gun charges in connection with an incident last year outside a sports bar in Clearwater. He had been freed on a $40,000 bond. He was taken back into custody, entering the pleas. He is scheduled to be sentenced on March 31st. He was arrested last year following a 2:30 a.m. disturbance outside Overtime Sports Bar. Police reported that Jablonski became incensed upon learning that the bar's karaoke machine was inoperable.
So we have either had this exact story or some stories very much like it in recent memory where people have thrown a fit over the karaoke machine.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was this exact one, so we're not going to disqualify it. It happens sometimes. You get stories that are similar. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, he was upset about the music. The karaoke enthusiast exited the bar where he saw James Emery, and he tried to get Jablonski to calm down, according to the arrest affidavit. Instead of cooling off, Jablonski pulled the Glock 9mm from his waistband and pointed at the man and said, "I don't bleeping care." It was illegal for him to and then he fired a shot into the air. It was illegal for him to possess a firearm because of his rap sheet of 2012 felony conviction for battery on a law enforcement officer. He'd also been convicted of DUI, disorderly conduct, theft, resisting an officer with violence, and violating probation.
Yeah, definitely a overreaction to not having the karaoke machine up and running. What do you think he wanted to sing?
I don't know. God bless America. I don't know.
I'm gonna say Copperhead Road. He looks like the kind of dude who show up and say, "Yeah, I want to sing Copperhead Road." I have definitely said this out loud on this radio show multiple times when we've had karaoke stories. So, but literally every time I've been to a karaoke night at a bar, somebody has done Copperhead Road. Every single time. Copperhead Road is batting 1,000 in karaoke.
I'll say Country Roads does too. That's high up
in your neck of the woods. I would say yes.
I think a lot of people do. Like I've been to places in different parts and Country Roads comes on.
Sure, I'm sure it's popular. I'm sure it's even more popular, more common where you're from coming from where you're from. I'm going to go with the fake officer winning today. Andrew asked the fair question in the YouTube live chat: is what is wrong with you, the person being scammed or the person doing the scamming? You know, sometimes it does go both ways. Like, how can you let yourself get scammed? How you gonna zell the police?
Yeah,
but the audacity to try it. Yeah, that's usually more of the what is wrong with you. I don't think that beats a reverend stealing $1,100 in baseball cards. Like, not just one shot, not just, man, I had a moment of weakness and I walked out with $1,100 baseball cards. Like, I had 5 consecutive moments of weakness.
Yes,
I had a week of weakness and stole all these baseball cards.
It's probably just the crisis going on in his life.
Yeah, it's probably you're right about that. We're going to take a timeout here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, Michael Swain of Fog.net will join us for this week's Jayhawk Weekly. That's coming up here at 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. This is Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk, back after a state tournament-induced week-long hiatus. Michael covers the Jayhawks again at fog.net. If you're a 24/7 sports subscriber, you get access to all of Michael's VIP information on the Jayhawks. Michael joins us now, and let's start with this, Michael. Just how bad was that glass court that they were playing on at the Big 12 tournament?
How bad was it? It was pretty bad. You know, it's one of those where, obviously, if you watch it on TV, like, you could still see how bad it was just based on the fact that how many people were slipping, right? But then, you know, being there in person, then you see it, and you see the way it's like kind of gives a little bit when guys are running and jumping on it. It was not great. And then obviously during timeouts too, I was fortunate enough to be kind of sitting closer to the court. So you could kind of see how during timeouts when they're playing different stuff on the court, how guys who are looking down to the coach's clipboard, all of a sudden there's a bunch of moving lights underneath it. Like, that's not ideal. So it was, I think a lot of people could have seen something coming. Like, this was not going to be a smooth integration on a big stage like this, and obviously made the change. And after that, things went back to normal, and all the talk could be about basketball. So that part of it at least was good. But yeah, it was not an ideal playing surface for players.
Kansas reaches the semifinals of the Big 12 tournament. They get rolled by Houston in the semifinal. Was there anything from that game that was particularly alarming or surprising in a negative fashion for this Kansas team going into the NCAA tournament? Or was it just one of those bad night to have a bad night against a really good team having a really good night?
Yeah, I think if you go back to that first Houston game that KU played on Big Monday, right? KU matched Houston's physicality in that game. And I really thought that, you know, this time around, KU did not do anywhere near as good a job of that. And Bryson Tiller getting benched is a pretty big indication of that, right? KU's starting power forward, who was good in the first Houston game, just was not up to the level. And Bill Self pulled him, and he didn't play in the second half, which is a pretty drastic measure to take. So I think it's one of those where if KU plays like that this weekend, they will not continue to Washington, D.C. in the Sweet 16. Because, you know, Cal Baptist is going to attack the glass, and St. John's is going to play physical. So if you're not going to play physical this weekend, you're going home. So I think it's one of those where KU knows what they have to do, and they can't play with that same sort of level that they did against Houston, or else their season's going to be over.
Is it concerning to you that so many of Kansas's losses this year have been, particularly down the stretch, of a double-digit loss variety, of a variety where not only it's one thing to lose, you're going to get got in the Big 12. That's just how good the league is, and nobody goes, you know, but one team is going to go like 16-2. It's really hard to do that in this league. But the manner in which Kansas lost games down the stretch, not just getting beat, but kind of getting punked a little bit. How much of a concern is that with this group? Because we've seen them at their best and most mentally tough, able to win games that maybe it felt on paper they didn't have much business winning, but it feels like they're a team of extremes right now. And that other side of the coin where they're getting punked in some of these games and losing by 10 plus, 20 plus, how much of a concern is that for Bill Self and the staff that this team has that in them, it appears?
Yeah, I think it is concerning, and I think this has been a development over the last 3 years where when KU loses, they lose big. And a part of that, too, is because, you know, for the most part, I think you could say Bill Self's in-game coaching and management in close games is really good. Like, when KU plays close games, they've tended to win. And so that pretty much leaves in terms of range of outcomes, right? Like, you're going to lose big, okay, fine. But if it's going to be a close game, KU's done pretty well in those situations. Now, I think that when you're like this team and you do not have an easy way to get offense, it is easier for games to get away from you because of the nature of the style of play that KU has, where they dare other teams to shoot threes. And if they make threes and KU's offense goes cold, man, 9-0 run, 11-0 run, 12-2, 15-3, like those types of spurts can happen. And I think that's what you saw against Houston, where some of those threes early in the game really put KU kind of out of reach early. And obviously they battled back, and, you know, the first half goes the way it does. But I just think this is I think it's a consequence of just the style of play that KU has right now, where, again, they are not a super consistent offensive team. You're pretty much guaranteed once a game there's going to be a 5-minute stretch where KU's going to score 2 points. And on the other end, if you're going to allow teams to shoot threes and all of a sudden those teams knock down 3 threes during that stretch, man, it's easy for them to go on those big runs that can make a game kind of go out of reach, especially against really good teams. So I think it's just one of those where I'm not sure if KU's going to fix that. They've got their style of play. It's going to come more down to how can you find ways to generate offense consistently to where the other team has to, take the ball out of the basket and go and slow things down and try and find ways that way to not get into these situations where the other team's going on these big runs. So I don't know if there's a solution really for that. It's more just comes down to, hey, how can you mitigate those longer stretches and really limit those from happening?
Michael Swain of Fog.net is our guest here on 580 Sports Talk. Joins us every Tuesday at this time for a little segment we call Jayhawk Weekly. Michael covers the Jayhawks at Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Michael, let's look ahead to the tournament. The first round opponent, the number 13 seed, Cal Baptist, making their NCAA Tournament debut. And obviously Kansas has a talent advantage. They're a Big 12 team. Cal Baptist is not. There's no surprises or secrets there. How do you think Cal Baptist is going to try and construct their upset bid? What is Kansas going to need to do well and be on guard for against this Cal Baptist team?
Yeah, it's really interesting. They have a very specific profile, and it's kind of one of those that I can make an argument either way why it's better or worse for KU matchup-wise. Like, they are really going to try and bully KU on the offensive glass. And I think it's why Bryson Tiller is just going to be such a huge piece to this game, because if he has a soft game and all of a sudden you're looking at it and, Cal Baptist is getting 4 out of, 10 misses or 5 out of 10 misses, like, that's a huge development because KU's first shot defense has been pretty good this year, but they do allow a decent amount of offensive rebounds. So Cal Baptist, really good on the glass. They also do not shoot a lot of threes, and they don't allow a lot of threes. So the good part for KU is this is not a team that really is going to go out there and try and chuck a bunch of threes and play the variance game. They've got one guy, Dominic Daniels, who is a super creative, savvy scorer. The highlight clips are going around on social media of him, like, great handle, really good first step. He'll be tough for Melvin Council to guard, but outside of that, it's not a group of players that you're fearing really hurting you from deep. Now, what they are going to do is they're going to try and attack off the bounce, and they are really going to try and take isolation opportunities and turn those into attempts at the rim, and if they miss, second chance opportunities. So that's kind of their offensive game plan. Defensively, they do a really good job of forcing teams to kind of become isolation heavy, which is not good for KU because KU as a team sometimes is a little too happy to become ball dominant, isolation heavy. So I think this is going to be a really big game for KU in terms of ball movement, body movement, right? If you can get this defense moving side to side, you can attack and you can get to the paint. And that's where you're really going to have to see KU excel, where they've struggled lately, which is finishing inside the arc. I think they're like 360th in Division I, finishing from 2 since the Arizona game. So that's been a weakness as of late. So it's a game where I could see Floyd Bedunga having a really big effort inside, because if they're going to try and attack the paint, Flory shot blocking could be a difference maker for KU. Then offensively, I think it comes down to ball movement, man movement, right? Can you take advantage of driving angles? Can you get to the rim? Can you finish? KU does those things. I think you feel pretty good about them advancing.
You look at KU's draw, should they advance past Cal Baptist, there's a possibility of a second-round matchup with St. John's. There's a possibility of a Sweet 16 matchup with Duke. And both of those teams in particular, they're big. They can play big. Duke's dealt with some injuries, but they still have some pretty impressive size. And if they could get healthy by the second weekend, that would be when they would match up with Kansas. You'd like to think that maybe they have some of that size back. But Kansas has won games against big teams. They beat Arizona at home. They were able to handle their size in that particular game. But what is Kansas going to have to do against some of these big teams in this bracket if they really want to make a run? And how important is it that you mentioned Tiller earlier, that he maybe receives that message that I think Bill Self meant to deliver with that second half benching against Houston, because how much, I mean, even one big lineups is Kansas going to be able to afford to play against some of these teams they might encounter on their road to what they hope is another Final Four?
Yeah, it's going to be really important. I think, Bright, I think Melvin's the one that sets the floor for this team. I think Darren determines kind of the ceiling, just because of his talent, right, and his ability to score. But, man, I think Bryson Tiller is going to be kind of like in the middle as like an X factor, because of the fact that on KU's side of the bracket, there's just a bigger teams. You're going to play, if you win on Friday, a St. John's team, if they can beat Northern Iowa, that is big and plays physical and wants to attack. Duke, we saw how KU played in the first game with Trey White having such a big game, but I really think that Bryson is such a key piece, because if he plays like he did against Arizona and Houston, KU can match up with these teams because Bryson allows you to. And if he's playing soft, then all of a sudden you're looking at playing Trey White at the 4, which isn't quite as good as, maybe it looked earlier in the season. And then you're asking Paul Mbia to come in. Like, that's not really going to go too well. So I really do think that a lot rides on Bryson and his ability to play physical, play to his strengths, and really, he's going to have to be kind of the jack of all trades guy, right? You're going to need some of the scoring. You're going to need him to be really strong on the glass. Defensively, teams are going to try and pick on him, because the way KU's defense is, they're going to try and get switches, onto Tiller, and whether that be, through getting guards on him or bigger wings or getting the centers on him, like, he's going to be attacked. So I really think for KU, a big key to making a run in this NCAA tournament is getting Bryson Tiller back to where he was a couple weeks ago.
Michael, we've finally heard a little bit more of the story from Darren Peterson about just what exactly he went through physically early on this season, in particular in relation to the cramping issues that held him out of games, held him out of halves at a time. Do you sense that was maybe important for Darren to have unburdened himself in that way a little bit? And do you sense that entering the tournament, that this is maybe the best version health-wise of Darren Peterson that Kansas has had all season?
Well, I think you need to separate those two things. I think health-wise, right, yes, I think this is probably the best Darren has been since, the cramping started. I don't think Darren gives a you-know-what about the story thing out there, right? He's someone that cares about basketball, and that is different, I think, than him actually being healthy on the court. He's talked about it. He's been talked about his entire life, right? High school, it was him against AJ, who's going to be the number one player. Here at Kansas, it's, it started off being who's going to be the number one pick, and it's shifted into Darren's health and people speculating. And even this week, you got, people on TV saying, just talking out of their ears. So I think for Darren, that's one side of it, right? Is it good for Darren's perception that some of this stuff is out there now and he's talked a little bit more? Yeah, it is. But I'm not sure if this has made it into the internet ether yet. But like someone Darren talked about in Kansas City was the fact that even if he had come out to talk about the stuff earlier in the year, people are still just going to make up stuff and just say what they want. And so that's kind of where I come from on this, where I think these two things are very different. I think Darren, as a basketball player right now, looks as explosive as he's looked all year. I think he looks as into it, right, in terms of being locked in for a full game and not having those stretches where he is passive. And those things are really big for KU. And does it help that perception-wise people understand that he had the full body cramps, that he had all this stuff going on? Sure, I think it does. That probably helps him more, maybe a little bit for a national conversation on a halftime show or people talking about the NBA draft, but I'm not sure how much that impacts him in this specific NCAA tournament run and what's going to be a kind of a bubble around Kansas that they're going to try and create.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and joins us every Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, pleasant travels to San Diego. Enjoy America's finest weather that you're going to encounter. Have a fish taco or two if that's your thing, and enjoy the basketball. We'll talk next week.
Awesome. Sounds good, guys. Talk to you next week.
That is Michael Swain. We'll take a timeout, come back, and wrap up this hour. 580 Sports Talk next. Let's do a little random question Tuesday to wind down this 4 o'clock hour on 580 Sports Talk. First, Spencer, you were a Marshall graduate. You didn't wear any green on St. Patrick's Day?
I'm wearing green.
Are you? Is that hat green?
Yeah.
Okay, that's me being colorblind then.
And the shirt's green.
Is it? Oh, I didn't even notice the undershirt. Okay, you get a pass. those like the olive green, the military green, whatever you want to call it, looks gray to me. Like I'm genuinely colorblind in that way. So my apologies. If I'm gonna wear green, it's gonna be the big honking bright green like I got on today. Here's my question. Other than Marshall, because I know this is your answer, who's got the best green uniform in sports?
Celtics.
Really? It's a classic look.
Yeah.
It's been the same for many, many years. Well,
it's also if I think of green in sports,
that's the first one you go to?
That is the number one team I think of. Celtics. I
really love the green that the A's wear now, not this like forest green that I've got on today from like the early 2000s, but more of the Kelly green. Like my hat is closer to that shade.
Yeah.
I like that green a lot. Also the Hartford Whalers. Great looking green uniform. The Oregon Ducks have a cool, like when they go the old school, like I'm more of a Kelly green than a dark green guy typically. Anyhow, what's your random question today?
When is too much? No, this is a hard. Can't figure out how to exactly phrase it. Is it too much that Olivia and I have shows we watch Sunday night through Friday night? Is that bad?
Do you have too much? Is there too much on your? Well, can you watch it all?
I mean, like there's all.
Are you caught up?
There's this new stuff where like we're gonna set that, like the FBI spinoff about the CIA.
Okay.
Set that for the summer.
Okay.
Like we already have multiple shows on every night.
If you can watch it, if you're not leaving your DVR overstuffed, then no, I don't think you're overdoing it. I think that if that is what you like to do together is watch television, and that you get caught up on all those shows and you don't look at your DVR and say, wow, we've got like 3 seasons worth of Tracker to catch up on. I don't think we're ever going to do it. Then that would probably be overdoing it. But if you're going to watch them all, then no. It's like, is this too much dessert? I don't know. Are you full?
Yeah, that's true.
If you're not, have another cookie. Get another scoop of ice cream. Go tell you're full. Go tell you're satisfied. I'm a big believer in that. We got half an hour left before we send things off to Westwood One's coverage of the first 4 tonight. So we'll have 580 Sports Talk headlines to wind down this show here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Final half hour of the day here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. We are leaving out of here at 5:30. We'll hand it off. Tournament, yes, the madness is here. The first four is tonight. Tip off in a little over a half hour, so it'll be a very short pregame before the 5:40 tip off in Dayton between the UMBC Retrievers and the Howard Bison. And I don't know anybody who went famous who went to UMBC. The only thing I really know about UMBC is they beat Virginia at one time. It was the greatest thing I ever saw because they just beat Purdue, like by accident. They walked a mud hole in that Purdue team. It was incredible. I also know their mascot is Retrievers. Let's see, famous alumni of UMBC, other than basketball players.
Not a lot.
No, I'm looking at these people and I don't recognize none of these names. Wait, hold on. Kathleen Turner, the actress?
I guess.
Really? How about that? Huh? Wouldn't have guessed that. Shout out to Body Heat. Great movie. Yeah. Apparently, yeah. Kathleen Turner. Yeah, has a BFA from University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Okay, is that
Do you know Jay Wittasick?
Jay Wittasick?
Wittasick.
Rocky,
yeah.
that's Rocky great Jay
Professional
Wittasick.
baseball player from 96 to 07. Zach Clark, pitcher for the Orioles. Wayne Franklin, pitcher. He pitched for the Astros, Brewers, Giants, Yankees, and Braves.
Okay.
And UMBC's baseball coach. That's what it says under baseball.
How about that? How about that? There we go. We found our notable UMBC alumni. Howard notable alumni, former Vice President Kamala Harris.
I love how they're like an hour away from each other. And they have to go all the way to Dayton for this matchup. Right.
Yeah, no kidding. Chadwick Boseman went to Howard.
Yeah, he did.
Thurgood Marshall, Supreme Court Justice, went to Harvard. Toni Morrison, great author, Bluest Eye. I had to read that in school. Zora Neale Hurston. Yeah. It's a blowout for Howard in the famous alumni, with all due respect to Jay Wittasick. It's a blowout. Ta-Nehisi Coates, Marlon Waynes, Nick Cannon? Nah, he didn't graduate from there, did he?
No, but I think he went there.
Anthony Anderson, Felicia Rashad, The Cosby Show. That's before your time. A little bit before my time, too, for being honest. Anyway, so that's first game today, and then North Carolina State and Texas is the late game. That will be the game featuring a broadcast team that will include both Charles Barkley and Dick Vitale. You know what it won't include? Dead air. With those two guys on. But that's the basketball tonight. That's the TV broadcast. I'm not actually sure who's on the radio broadcast tonight. I bet I could find out. But anyway, we'll have those games for you right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Pregame coverage at 5:30. So that is when we are done today, which means we've got headlines to get to, and then we're going to get out of here. Want to hear from you on the text line? 785-272-9429 is the number. You can also interact with us in our live chat on our YouTube channel. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. 580 Sports Talk. Go subscribe. Slam that subscribe button. Drive that number up and say hello. Grow the 580 Sports Talk community. And if you're watching the video right now, you are seeing scrolling on the bottom of our screen the information for our 580 Sports Talk Bracket Challenge. We're running it through ESPN.com this year, so you have to have a ESPN username and bracket to be able to participate. But go to the tournament challenge over at ESPN.com and search for the group 580 Sports Talk Bracket Challenge. No, 580 Sports Talk Ball Knowers. That's the name of the group. 580 Sports Talk Ball Knowers. Jump in the group, and if your bracket wins, one bracket per listener. If your bracket wins, we'll hook you up with either 4 tickets to a Royals home game this season or 4 tickets to a K-State football game this fall, home football game this fall. Your choice. We'll hook you up. So join the contest. Join the 580 Sports Talk Bracket Challenge, ESPN.com. 580 Sports Talk Ball Knowers. We'll run that in a scroll at the bottom of our screen. We also have links on our Facebook page, our X, 580 Sports Talk on X, 580 Sports Talk on Blue Sky. You can follow the link and go sign up. We hope that all of you do sign up and play along with us. All right, let's get to the headlines. We don't have a ton of them, or we don't have a ton of time. We do have quite a few headlines, actually, today. We're going to begin with a local sports headline announcement made within the last hour, made official on the X account of Washburn-Ichabod sophomore center Dylan Clausen. He is leaving Washburn and entering the transfer portal. This was long speculated by just about everybody paying attention to Washburn basketball, that Dylan Clausen, the standout sophomore from Omaha, who is likely to be an All-American this season, would have an opportunity to level up and go play at the Division I level next year. And it appears that that is what Clausen will pursue, as he announced in a statement, again, posted to his social media, that he is entering the transfer portal. The statement reads in part, "Choosing Washburn was one of the easiest decisions of my life. Leaving Washburn has been one of the hardest." Clausen is a finalist for this year's Bevo Francis Award for top small college basketball player in the country. And Washburn certainly missed him. He missed the final 3 games of the season with a calf injury, and they missed him in their first round upset loss against Minnesota Duluth in the Central Region tournament on Saturday rather. But outstanding 2 years in the Washburn uniform for Dylan Clausen, and no hard feelings whatsoever. He's going to have an opportunity to go play D1 basketball and probably make a good chunk of NIL money in the process, and he should go pursue that. So all the best to him. Washburn will certainly miss him, but he made a big, big impact in 2 years as a Ichabod. Dylan Clausen to the transfer portal. First headline for you, Spencer.
Yeah, I saw this, and it's an interesting local tie here. 2 female college coaches from a small town in Kansas, Holton, are going to face off in the women's basketball invitational tournament on Thursday. Jory Collins, head coach at North Dakota State, and Deandra Shermer, head coach at Chattanooga. Collins was previously at Emporia State. She led them to multiple MIAA titles before she helped NDSU into a Summit League contender. And Shermer is in her second season at Chattanooga after she came from Valdosta State, among other places. That game's going to be on ESPN Plus Thursday at 7 p.m. Just pretty cool local ties.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Thursday, 7 p.m., North Dakota State and Chattanooga. Pretty rare that you get a matchup of 2 coaches from the same hometown.
Yeah.
Even rarer for it to be a town the size of Holton, Kansas. So yeah, that is a cool note.
That's the same tournament KU and K-State women.
That's right. K-State women play Thursday night. You'll be able to hear that game right here on 580 WIBW. They play Georgia Tech in the first round of that tournament. Next headline for me, we have the first All-America men's basketball team, AP All-American team, released earlier today. 3 freshmen were first-team AP All-Americans. 3 of the 5. The only unanimous first-team All-American, Duke forward Cameron Boozer. Also first-team All-American honors for BYU star A.J. Devonta and Arkansas freshman Darius Acuff. Also rounding out the first team, non-freshman veteran players, Texas Tech's J.T. Toppin and Michigan's Yaxel Lendeborg. The second team, Shawnee Mission Northwest own Keaton Wagler from Illinois, one of 2 freshmen on the second team, along with North Carolina's Caleb Wilson, who unfortunately is injured and will miss the NCAA tournament, just like Toppin. Also second team AP All-American, Purdue point guard Braden Smith, Michigan State point guard Jeremy Fears, and Iowa State big man Joshua Jefferson. On the third team, just 1 freshman on the third team, Kingston Flemings from Houston. Gonzaga senior Graham Ike, who I think has been playing college basketball for 10 years. Christian Anderson, sophomore guard for Texas Tech. Alabama sophomore, former KU commit LeBaron Philon. And Thomas Haw, the junior forward from Florida. Honorable mentions include a pair of Arizona Wildcats, Jaden Bradley and Braden Burries. Yes, I do think it's interesting that J.T. Toppin, first-team All-American, and Joshua Jefferson, second-team All-American, and Kingston Flemings and Christian Anderson, third-team All-American, and the Conference Player of the Year was honorable mention All-American.
Yeah.
It should have been Toppin. I understand why Toppin missed last few games due to injury, but I don't think that should have been held against him. It should have been Toppin. I think the coaches got that wrong. Anyhow, also earning honorable mention, St. John's big man and former Jayhawk Zuby Ejiofor, Florida's Ruben Chinyelu, Ohio State's Bruce Thornton, Butler's Michael Ajayi, Stanford's Abuka Okori, Vanderbilt's Tyler Tanner, Iowa point guard and former Northwest Missouri State star Bennett Sturtz, and a pair of Big 12 players from the Sunflower State, Darren Peterson and P.J. Haggerty, both honorable mention All-America by the Associated Press. So those are your AP All-America teams. Whole lot of freshmen. Not all that surprising if you've been following college basketball this year. Give me another headline, Spencer.
Yeah, they're seeing this one just a little bit ago, but Kansas assistant coach Jeremy Case has interviewed for the Arizona State head job, according to a guy that we don't like very much, but Jeff Goodman reported it.
I don't think he's going to get that job.
No, but he interviewed for it, so
he did. Next headline here. Let's get to these two NFL transactions today. A couple of wide receivers on the move. We'll start with former Chief Hollywood Brown. He is headed to Philly to play for the Eagles. It's a one-year deal worth $6.5 million. That's the third straight year that Hollywood Brown has had to sign a one-year deal.
Remember when he came to Kansas City?
I do.
And Brett Veach said something along the lines of like, "Yeah, we don't anticipate him being able to come back next year."
And then he got hurt on the first play of the preseason
in Jacksonville,
and it was a freak injury that kept him out most of the year, and obviously that was disappointing. And he hardly got to play in 2023, and then that led to the Chiefs being able to bring him back, or rather 2024, and that led to the Chiefs being able to bring him back on another 1 year. You call those one-year deals prove-it deals, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to, prove yourself. When you go back on the market, you can get a long-term deal for some more money. Nobody wants a one-year deal. You want long-term financial stability. If you're a veteran with a track record of production, which Hollywood Brown had, unfortunately, he also had a track record of getting hurt a lot. So that's why he was able to sign that one-year deal, or that's why the Chiefs were able to sign him to a one-year deal. And it didn't quite work out. And then year two, it didn't quite ever really work out either. He's just not particularly good. Now, do I think he's a fine wide receiver number 3? Maybe, but that's what he's getting paid like. That's what the expectation is going to be for Hollywood Brown moving forward. Because the Eagles lost, what's his name, who was their third wide receiver last year?
Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, they lost Jahan Dotson. Where'd he end up?
Jacksonville.
He asked. That's a good question. Where did he end up? I'm gonna have to do my Googles again. There's a lot you miss when we're not. It's Falcons.
Oh,
the Falcons.
I was in the correct region.
Yeah, it's South Division team,
southeast of the country.
So Hollywood Brown, 2 seasons as a Chief. The sum total: 26 regular season games, 58 receptions, 678 yards. 5 touchdowns, all of those scored this past season. 49, 587, and 5 for Hollywood Brown. He's entering his age 29 season. He has missed time. I mean, the thing for Hollywood that was encouraging for him last season was they played every game but the last one, I think. Played 16 of the 17 games. And he had not played that many games in a season since 2021. So that was a step in the right direction for Brown, but the speed maybe starting to wane a little bit, and the production certainly waning a little bit, though he did have the best receiving success rate of his career by some distance this last season with the Chiefs. So on he goes to the Eagles to be their wide receiver number 3. Maybe they're number 2 if they trade A.J. Brown. Who knows? Anyway, you know where they're not trading A.J. Brown to? The Denver Broncos. Because the Broncos today traded for Jalen Waddle instead. There have been all kinds of rumors about the Broncos being interested in trading for A.J. Brown, needing to add playmakers to their offense. And today they add one. Jalen Waddle, the former Dolphin, is now a Denver Bronco. The trade sends Denver's first-round pick this year, number 30 overall, to Miami, and also a third-round pick the two teams are swapping fourth-round picks. So the Broncos are moving up, I think, 19 picks in the fourth round and sending a third and a first for Jaylen Waddle. Gut reaction when I ask you this question, how do you answer this question? Is Jaylen Waddle good?
He's good enough to net a first-round pick, which none of the other receivers traded this offseason have.
So that's a great way to answer the question. So he has not gone over 1,000 yards receiving each of the last two seasons after being a 1,000-yard receiver in each of his first two seasons.
Well, who's throwing him the football?
Yeah, that's a great point about last year. He was catching passes from anywhere. But the other guys who were playing quarterback for Miami the last couple of years, all Tua was in traction. But Waddle led the league in yards per reception in his second year, 2022. Got 26 career touchdowns, 373 career receptions, 3,000-yard seasons. The Broncos desperately needed a reliable receiving option because they had Cortland Sutton, who's like, I think, a good number two, like a big outside wide receiver. I think he's fine in that role. All the other guys are like, Marvin Mims is probably a better special teamer than a wide receiver. Tim Patrick is a maybe, not Tim Patrick. The kid they drafted, Tim out of Illinois. Oh my God, what's his name? Pat Bryant. Pat Bryant. Wow. Tim Patrick, former Bronco.
Yeah.
I got him confused. Pat Bryant. Pat Bryant had some moments as a rookie, but by and large, that's not really an imposing receiver group. Waddle gives them a speed element, a history of production that the Broncos don't have. There are going to be some receivers on the board at number 30 overall. The Broncos just must not have liked them as much as they like Jaylen Waddle, which I think is understandable. Waddle's also really good in the screen game. The Broncos love to throw a lot of those screen passes with Bo Nix. It kind of feels like a go-for-it move a little bit. I think that the Broncos understand. And this is the thing. Like, the Broncos right now are good, obviously. Like, this is not me entirely being a hater here. They just won the division. They went to the AFC Championship game. They probably win the AFC Championship game with a healthy Bo Nix and play in the Super Bowl. Like, right now is the time to strike while the iron is hot for the Denver Broncos. And they've basically sat out free agency. They didn't add, quite literally, they've added nobody. They have just retained their own guys, mostly tight ends. I think they have like 7 tight ends on the roster. They're all the same guy. Adam Troutman, Lucas Kroll. Like, if you can tell the difference between all these guys that the Broncos have a tight end, then more power to you. But there's also the understanding. You're entering year 3 with Bo Nix, right?
Yeah.
Typically, rookie quarterback, you get to the end of year 3, and you do the long-term deal. Bo Nix on a rookie deal, something you can make work. You can pad out the roster. You can build out. You can spend a lot of money on skill guys, offensive linemen. You can beef up the defense so that you don't have to take a lot of chances on offense, or you have the personnel to erase mistakes made on offense. When your quarterback's just like fine. And I think that's Bo Nix's deal. Like, Bo Nix is not a top 10 quarterback in the league. Nobody would claim that with a straight face. He's top 15. You can win with that, but he's not top 10 quarterback in the league. But what happens when you have to start paying him like he is? How much harder does it get to build a roster when you are handcuffed to a quarterback who's too good not to give the extension to? And that's the category that Bo Nix falls into. So when the Broncos are at a point where we got to get Bo Nix $55, $60 million a year, and that's going to happen. It's going to happen. He's going to get that kind of money. It gets a whole hell of a lot harder to build a championship roster around a limited quarterback making that much money. So the time to make it shake with Bo Nix is right now.
Yep.
So I think the Broncos are doing the right thing, trading a first rounder for Jaylen Waddle. Feels a little rich, but I think for the Broncos it makes a lot of sense. We'll take a break, come back with a final word next on 580 Sports Talk. All right, we got about a minute for a final word on this Tuesday before we hand it off to Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament. What you got?
Unfortunately, the Italians, they blew it last night. Venezuela wins 4-2. Mikhail Garcia gets
Michael Garcia.
We switched it again?
Yes, but he told us it's Michael.
Okay, I thought
Michael Garcia. Yeah, we'll get it right.
Okay, Garcia has 2 hits and an RBI. They're playing US tonight. Bobby Witt leads off. I'm excited for this one.
I'm looking forward to it too. I'm going to be pretty thrilled for either side that wins tonight. Talked about how much love I've got for a lot of players, both past and present from Venezuela. Obviously, Team USA is Team USA. Should be a great game. Should be a great exhibition of baseball, and everything good about the game over the course of those 9 innings in front of that crowd in Miami. Going to be great stuff between that and the first 4. You're going to want multiple screens tonight. It's a great, great time of year in the sports world. That'll do it for us. Coverage of the first 4 coming up next from Westwood One, just like we'll do it tomorrow, too. So we'll be back tomorrow from 3 until 5:30. For Spencer Dupuis, I'm Dan Lucero, and this is 580 Sports Talk. Good night!